Senator from Kansas.
Thank you, Madam President. Simply stated, President Biden's so-called infrastructure plan helps China and hurts hardworking Americans. Let me say it again. This bill helps China and hurts hardworking Americans. Less than 5%. That's how much of this $2 trillion infrastructure proposal actually goes towards building roads and bridges in the United States. Instead, this partisan proposal is loaded with Green New Deal pet projects and an abundance of spending that stretches far beyond recognition of what hardworking Americans define as infrastructure. This is not the first time we've seen Democratic attempts to redefine the traditional meaning of words. In recent weeks, the White House has also moved to change how people perceive bipartisanship in Congress. No longer do our colleagues across the aisle need to secure Republican votes in order to successfully pass a so-called bipartisan bill. One obscure poll with cleverly worded questions that helps to garner bipartisan support from respondents will do the trick. It's this manipulation of words that will allow President Biden to keep trying to ram through this radical agenda and sell it to the American people as fulfilling his campaign promise of unity. President Lincoln once said, "You can fool all the people some of the time, and some of the people all the time, but you cannot fool all the people all the time." The American people won't be duped by Washington doublespeak. I hosted 5 town halls this past weekend, and Kansans have their eyes open to what's in this bill. Kansans understand that while this bill provides $115 billion for roads and bridges, more than half of the over $2 trillion is devoted to green energy projects and the elimination of fossil fuels. Among these green provisions is $170 billion for electric car chargers and tax incentives for purchasing electric cars. It also calls for electrifying 1/5 of the nation's school buses and all 650,000 of the United States Postal Service delivery trucks, which will result in driving up the cost to Americans. When unveiling this infrastructure plan, President Biden mentioned China 6 times as he attempted to sell it as a way to compete with China. However, this rapid jump to electric vehicles does the opposite and will benefit China more than many hardworking Americans. That's because China leads the world in manufacturing 80% of the materials needed for batteries and will continue to do so. Of the 136 lithium-ion battery plants in the pipeline between now and 2029, 101 are based in China. China mines 64% of the world's silicon and makes 80% of the world's polysilicon with coal-generated electricity, the key component to solar panels. This bill will serve as a boon for China while decimating our domestic oil and gas industry that helps us achieve our long-held goal of energy independence in 2019. This bill will harm our general economic output by taking $2 trillion out of the private sector. We should really be calling this package the Grab Your Wallet Bill or Raise Your Taxes Bill. The legislation calls for the largest corporate tax increase in decades and will put the tax burden on American companies toward the top of the developed world list. This will make American companies less competitive in the global market. It's a recipe to kill the economy at a time when our nation is still recovering from COVID. It will also negatively impact our economy in the long term. According to provisions from Penn Wharton budget model, as a result of this partisan legislation, overall GDP will be decreased 0.9% lower in 2031 and 0.8% lower in 2050. Hourly wages will be down by 0.7% in 2031 and 0.8% in 2050. Perhaps what's most disappointing is this bill demonstrates that gone are the days when infrastructure packages were an opportunity to build bipartisan bridges. Thanks to Republicans' control of the Senate and reaching across the aisle, the 2 most recent bills governing spending on roads and bridges both passed with overwhelming bipartisanship support before they were signed into law. So in case there's still an opportunity for bipartisanship, let me tell you what I'm for. I'm for a package that, number 1, reaches across the aisle and rebuilds our aging roads and bridges. Next, incentivizes innovation, invests in future generations, ensures high-speed internet for all Americans, and reforms our permitting process so that we can say shovel-ready. We really mean shovel-ready as opposed to going through years of permitting and driving up the cost of the project. Look, Pre-COVID, we had the strongest economy in my lifetime thanks to Republican-led policies put in place over the last 4 years. Lower taxes and deregulation resulted in historically low unemployment rates, as well as American energy independence and affordable energy costs. We need to get back to these policies, not continue the onslaught of harmful red tape, proposed tax increases, and unprecedented spending sprees. For the future of our children and grandchildren, depend on it. Thank you, Madam President. I yield back.
Madam President.